Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to the next installment in our ComputerCraft Lua for Beginners series. Today, we're going to be creating an FTP program. If you're not familiar with FTP, it's a file transfer protocol used in the real world to essentially just send files between a client and a server. I'll show you pretty much what we're making in game first to give you an idea. So right here is the FTP server. It is actively running and waiting for clients to connect. So we'll just run FTP client, and you'll see that it connected to server with the ID of 12. We have 5 options. We can upload, download, list, and delete. So first thing I'm going to do is list the files and leave it blank so we can just search at the root level. And these are the files that are currently on the server. So let's just go ahead and download the game. We'll say game.lua. That's the file path on the server, and then we're giving it a name to save on the local computer. So I'm going to call it download1. And you'll see file downloaded, so that it was successful. Now I am going to exit. I created a little example file, so let's edit example. You'll see it says hello. So we'll go ahead and just do FTP client, and I'm going to upload this example file, example.lua, and it'll say upload successful. And if we list, you'll see that example.lua is now right here on the top. Lastly, I'm just going to go ahead and delete example.lua, and it says that the file was deleted. To show you that the file actually transferred, I'm going to go ahead and edit download1. And you'll see this is our number game from a previous episode, and it transferred all of the code here. And lastly, a neat little feature with this is it has a logging system. So this creates FTP log.txt, and you'll notice that it didn't actually show that as a file for the client to see. It's because we pretty much filter it out and hide it. It logs all of the commands, getting the day as well as the time. I have the time frozen through a game rule, so that's the only reason why the time is the same, but the time would be progressing in a normal game, and it shows which client is running the commands and which commands that they ran. Of course, it could be more distinguished as far as which file it deleted, which file it got. But this is just a basic concept of what could eventually become something more complex in the future. Without further ado, let's just jump right in. Okay, so we're here in Visual Studio Code. I'm just going to go ahead and start on the client side of things, because the client side is going to be a little more involved here. So the first thing we're going to do is we need to go ahead and open our modem and determine the side. So I'm just going to say local side equals top. And I like to have this at the top of the program for people to change it if they would like. And then we'll just do Rednet open side. We're going to create a little helper function here, and it's going to handle the commands that the client sends to the server. I'm just going to call it send request. And we're going to pass a couple of arguments here. We're going to pass the server ID as well as data, because these are going to be Rednet commands, so we will need the ID of the computer. We're going to send to the server ID, and we're going to be sending tables. All of our data is going to be serialized into tables. That is how we're able to download and upload entire programs. It's because we're essentially reading the whole file and storing it as a table. So we're going to have to do text utils.serialize and whatever data we give it. Now we need to immediately do a receive, Rednet receive, and I only care to have the response. I don't care to see the ID. And I'm calling it raw response because this is going to be the serialized version that is unreadable. And we're going to let it wait 3 seconds. So if we get a response back, then we're going to return the unserialized version of this message. So textutils.unserialize raw response. Otherwise, if we get no response, then the server is pretty much down. So I'm going to return a table here, because it's whatever function we run is going to expect a table. So I'm going to do status is error, and then message is no response from server, and end that off. So that's our little helper function to handle all of our commands between the client and the server. First thing we need to do, as you noticed in our program, it will automatically connect to the server. We don't need to worry about some sort of ID. All right, so next we need to have it actually ping and find the server. If you recall in our program, it already grabbed the computer ID that it is determining as the server. So I'm going to call it find server. And we're going to do a broadcast command. And we need to serialize it again, because everything we're sending is going to be tables. So we got to be consistent. And the command is going to be ping. We're going to declare 2 variables, ID and raw equals rednet.receive. And if we get both of these things, the ID as well as the raw data, then we're going to unserialize it. And we're going to check and see that the data that we have is Pong. And if it gives us Pong, then that's the server. So we will return the IDs. That is what we need. Otherwise, we will return nil, aka no ID. So we need to create our commands here, our download, upload, list, and delete. So let's do download first. So local function get file. We're gonna pass server ID. We're gonna be passing server ID to all of these functions. We're gonna say remote path equals read, and our response, we're going to send a request. Put in the server ID as well as a table here. The command will be get, and the path will be remote path. And you know what? It would probably help if I put in to have the user type the path. So I'm gonna have it say enter remote file path right here. Jumped ahead of myself. So it'll prompt the user to enter a file path, and then it'll send the command get and pass that file path onto the server. We need to handle the response that we get from the server. So if response, the status is okay, then we're just going to write save as. This means that the file was found, and we are going to prompt the user of what they want to name it. Call a variable save as equal to read, and we're going to go ahead and create a file here with the fs.open save as in write mode, because we are downloading the contents and we're essentially creating a file. We're going to write response.data. We're taking the data that we receive from that response, putting it in the file, and then we're going to close. So the main thing to keep in mind is when we're sending requests and receiving requests, it's going, well, mainly receiving. When we're receiving, it's always going to be a status and a date and data. That's what's in our table. And now we need to let the user know file downloaded as, and then we can concatenate the new name so that it looks cleaner. Otherwise, if we're unable to download, then I'm going to just print error, and then we'll pass some sort of error message. So we'll have a third thing in our table, message, for in case errors happen, or unknown. Just in case maybe there is no message, then it'll be an unknown error. Good to cover your bases. So that's how we'll download. Let's go ahead and do a little work on the server side. So the server side is actually be a lot shorter. First, we're going to do the same thing by declaring a side. I'm going to call it top, and we're going to open the modem on that side. And then I want to specify a log file. So I'm going to call it log file, and the file name will be ftp_log, and it'll be a text file. And right here, right at the beginning of the program, I'm going to create the logging function so it can start logging right away. All it's going to do is we're going to open this log file in append mode, because we're going to be continuously adding new data. And if you remember, it's (a). Now we need to pass the day in the game and the time in the game to this file. So we're going to do local day is os.day. Luckily, there's very convenient functions in the OS library, and there is an os.time, but if you don't do the text utils format time, then it's going to be a bit harder to read. This command just makes the time that this returns human readable. So once we have all of that stuff ready, we're going to actually write the log. And let's say we got to format it in a way that looks nice. So we'll do day, add a space, and then I'm going to move that closing bracket out, concatenate day. Then we'll say at space, concatenate time, and then we'll add the closing parenthesis and put a space and concatenate action. So it'll say day 1 at 7 a.m. and then the command they ran. Once we write it, of course, we need to close the file. Right after we declare that function, I'm going to just print to the screen that the FTP server has started. It's always good to know that things are working as you would expect and that it's listening for clients. And immediately I'm going to have it log, say, server started. It's good to know where to look, like when it starts. So we need a little helper function. We're going to do, like in the client, where it is send request, we're going to do local function send response. and it's just going to need ID and data. And this is going to be really short. It's literally just going to be Rednet send the ID and the serialized data, and that's it. That's all we need that to do. The bulk of this program is going to be this function here. We're going to call it handle request, and it's going to use ID and message. And immediately when this function runs, we're going to log. This is where we're going to record what the clients are doing. So client, then concatenate ID, then say sent command, concatenate, and then we need to pass the message.command in here. And if there's nothing, if that doesn't exist, we'll just default to unknown. Now we can shorten message.command to just CMD, because that's a lot shorter and easier to write. And now we need to do a bunch of ifs. So we're going to say if CMD is get, aka the download function, get file here, then we need to get the path. So local path equals message.path. If you remember, we are passing the path as well as the command when we run this. So now we're taking the path and setting it equal to a local variable. Now we need to first of all check that this path actually exists so we don't actually error out and the server goes down. So if it exists and it's not a directory, so we can check if it is a directory with this command here, it's going to return a true or false. So in this case, we're checking that it is not a directory. Then we will proceed. We're going to open the file for whatever path we put in here. And we're going to do path in read mode. And then we need local data for file.readAll. We're going to take all of the contents. File.close, because we are done with it. And then once we do that, we just send response. We're going to do ID and then a table. We're going to pass status. And this is going to tell the client that everything worked and we're good, as well as data. Otherwise, say we had something go wrong, we will send a response as well to ID. And the status, instead of being okay, we're going to say error. And then we're going to pass message. And I'm just going to say file not found. And we can concatenate path just for extra clarity for the user. And then we will log this. So we'll log error, file not found, then concatenate path here as well. So that is the get. The next one is if we want to upload. So command equals put. So the end, we need to move this end. There we go. So let's go ahead and work on the upload function on the client now. So I'm just going to call it local function put file. And then of course, server ID again. And we're going to write to the user, enter local file path to upload. And we're going to pass we're going to use a read command here. So local path equals read. And if it exists, we will carry on. Otherwise, they done messed up. So if it does exist, it's going to be just like we did on the server. We're going to do local file fs.open. Then it's going to be local path in read mode. Then local content equals file.readAll. And then we're going to close the file. Simple as that. Now we're going to send it over to the server. So local response equals send request. And we're going to do server ID and then a table. Command equals put. There you go. And then we're going to do our file here, local path, and then the data is going to be content. So we're sending the command, the name of the file, and the content within the file. And we'll go ahead and print response.status. Okay. And upload successful, or error, and then response.message. Now, this is assuming the file exists. So now we need to have it do something in case it does not exist. And we'll just simply say file not found and be done with it. So we did the upload function on the client. Time to do it on the server. So inside here, we're going to do local path and data equals message.path, message.data, and then local file. We're going to open it and write because we are creating a file here. So fs.open path in W mode, and then just do a file.write data and then close. That's pretty much it. We're taking, when we run this command, we got the message, we're always passing message inside client here. We're sending the path and data. So that is why we have message.path and message.data. This line here is just shortening it to simply path and data. So we don't have to be typing message.path and message.data again. So once the file is actually uploaded, we're going to send a response back to the client. So ID and then a table, and the status is going to be okay. And the message will be file saved as, and then just concatenate path. So with that's all we need for the put here. So we'll just do else if command equals list. So let's do the list command on the client side. We're going to do local function list files server ID. First things first, we're going to have them choose which directory they want to look in, and we'll let them know that by default it's just going to search the root directory. Oops, we'll put a colon here, and we're going to create a variable here just called dir, and then we're going to send dir to the server. So local response equals send request to the server, and then a table command equals list, and then we gotta send dir over there. So path equals dir. Now, if we get a response, so response.status, and it equals okay, then we're going to print all of the files, which will be within response. We're going to do a for loop here because we're just going to loop through everything and print everything out. So print or for blank file. We're going to do it in iPairs. It's going to be response.files. Nope. There we go. And we'll just simply print. We'll do a little hyphen and concatenate file. Now we could do like a plus for like directories and a minus for files. And I thought about doing that, but I didn't want to make this video longer than it already will be. So for simplicity's sake, we're just going to list everything. Otherwise, if the status is not okay, then we're going to say error, and we're going to concatenate the response, the message. And if there is no message, we'll put unknown. So that is the list files on the client side. So let's do the server side now. First things first, we need to create local dir here as well. And we're just going to pull it from message.path. And if nothing is specified or they leave it blank, then it's just going to be nothing. So we're going to make sure that the directory exists if they specify one. So if it exists, dir, and it is a directory that they put in, then we will continue. It needs to be a directory. If it's a file, then that's not going to quite work the same. We're going to create a table, just files, and we're going to just collect them all up in a for loop, and we're going to do it in iPairs again. So for file in iPairs, and we're going to do fs list dir, and then do. Oh, I don't want that. Do. That's annoying. Okay, that was annoying. We're going to make sure we created the log file here, so we need to actually hide it so the user can't just download it. We don't want that. So if file does not equal ftp_log.txt, then we're going to insert the file into this table. Files, file. So we're inserting into the files table the current file that is selected in the loop. So once it's done looping and we have our files table completed, we will send the response. The status will be okay, and we're going to send the files over. Otherwise, else, we're going to send a response ID. The status will be error. The message directory not found. And then dir. Cool. We are almost done. So now we need to make the delete command. So else if, let's put a space. Else if cmd equals delete. Then we'll do that. Now let's do the client side. That's going to be a pretty short function here. I'm just going to call it delete file. Put in server ID. Oh, I don't want capital I. We're going to just prompt the user, enter file path to delete. And we're going to do local path equals read. And then we're going to send it over to the server ID. And then the table, it's going to be the delete command. And then the path that we are deleting. Then we will print response.message or unknown. And that's it. On the server side, it's also going to be pretty straightforward. We're going to go ahead and just shorten this, just make path equals message.path. And we need to make sure that path exists. So if fs exists path, then we'll just simply delete it. We need to also update the client. So send response ID and the status equals OK. Message, we'll say deleted and then concatenate path. Else, we're just going to send a response to ID. Status will be error and message will be file not found. And we'll concatenate path. Great. So that's all we need for the delete. The last thing we need now is the ping command, which is what's ran at the beginning of the program to establish the server and a client connection. So we'll go ahead and knock that out here now since we are already here. So we'll just do send response to ID. The status is going to equal Pong. Now we'll do an else and we'll just send a response to ID. The status will be error. The message will be unknown command. This is if we somehow get some weird data, or this is a catch-all for any other errors that could happen. And in case it's a number or something, we're going to do toString. Some good old error handling here. And that is all there is for the main function here, handle request. And we already did the ping actually in the beginning here for find server. So I think it's time, or the main chunk of the program that's going to actually utilize the find server function. So we're going to say print searching for FTP server, and we will say local server ID is equal to find server. And if we don't get one, then that's a bummer. We'll say no server found and return. So we just end the program. And then we'll just go ahead and print connected to server ID and then concatenate server ID. Now we need to list our options, and we're just going to do a while loop so that it's continuous. I'm going to just simply print out all of the options here. I'm going to do a /n so that there's always a line break. We'll do upload file. 2 will be download file. 3 can be list files. 4 will be delete file. And then 5 will be exit. And then we'll give them a spot to write the command. So we'll just go ahead and do one of those. Local choice. Read. We're going to get their input here, and then we'll just do a bunch of ifs here to determine which command we're running. So if choice is 1, then we're going to run put file server ID. Else if choice is 2, then we're going to get file server ID. If it is 3, then we will list files. You get the idea. It's the same thing over and over, just because we made it that way up here. Made it nice and easy to implement all these functions. So if choice equals 4, then delete file. Otherwise, if it is 5, then we will just break. And then if it's anything else, that is invalid choice. And we'll put a angry face there. And you know what? With that, that's the end of the client side. Let's wrap things up with a really easy one. It's very simple. So while true do, we're just going to do ID raw message equals rednet.receive. And then we're going to do local OK message. We're going to do pcall text utils unserialize raw message. All right, so we use pcall in particular because it means protected call, and it will it'll continue running the program if this returns true, and if it is false or errors, then it will not crash the program. It will instead just return false and carry on. So it's really nice. It helps with stability and keeps the server running. And then we'll go ahead and do an if statement. So if OK, and the type of message we're getting is a table, because we're dealing with tables for everything here, then we will do handle request ID message. Otherwise, if it is not a table or it's not OK, then we will send a response to the ID And the status is going to be error. And the message will just be invalid message format because it is not a table. And that is it. We should be good to go. This is the complete server side and then complete client side. Let's go in game and see how it looks. I'm just going to go ahead and start the server here. Okay, that's good. Listening for requests. Actually, I'm going to delete this log file because I think it's still there from earlier. And now we'll run it. Now we need to run the FTP client. Ooh, that's not good. Let's take a look at line 64. Oh, that would do it. It looks like it auto-completed to downloaded when I meant to do. Okay, let's try it again. FTP client. There we go. So it auto-connected to 12, so the broadcast worked. It pinged and ponged. So let's list files. That's what we got at the root level, and it is ignoring the FTP log.txt file, which is great. I still have examples, so I'm going to remove download, and I'm going to go ahead and upload example. So example.lua, and it was successful. Let's try again, but we'll say example.txt when that does not exist. File not found, so that's great. It looks like example, path. It didn't name the file accordingly, it just put path. So let's explore that real quick. Very simple. This shouldn't be quotes. We want to actually pass the variable into this instead of naming it literally path. So let's try that again. Remove path, and let's take a look at that log file. FTP log. There we go. So it's working. We got the day and the time and the client and the commands. So that's awesome. So we'll run it again. I'm going to try and upload that file. We'll exit FTP client, upload example.lua, and it was successful. Let's list. There it is, example.lua, right there at the top. Let's go ahead and download something. Let's download the FTP server. I think it's kind of funny that we can. Let's call it the same thing. There we go. We downloaded it. Now let's delete path. Yep, path is gone now. Great. And we also have FTP server, so I think technically we can now run it, which is pretty silly. Actually, let's do client and upload FTP client and exit. Now I'm going to run the server on here and run the client on here. Aha, look at that. See, it works nicely. List files. Yep, those are all there. So yeah, that's it. That's the FTP program. This is definitely, you can expand on this. You can make a nice GUI. You can differentiate between directories and files. Make it so you can explore the directories. You could try and add file permissions, maybe. There's a lot of things that could be done here to make it more complex. And I think in the upcoming video, I'm gonna explore doing like some sort of SSH type thing. So if you're not familiar with that, SSH is essentially a way to tunnel into another computer through the command line and run commands as if you're on that computer yourself. So I'm thinking we can easily do that in ComputerCraft too. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all again next time. Bye-bye.